Thank you very much for welcoming me here. I'm very pleased to again be able to come and speak to you about some of the things that has been occurring over the past 25 years. The thing is that I come from a company up in the Nordics. I'll not spend too much time on that, but we have been working basically within the energy industry for 25 years. We've been working in a wealth of different areas, but the thing is that personally, I have also been part of that journey already from approximately 25 years ago. So yeah, I started in the energy sector 25 years ago. It's a very nice picture. It came from the fact that when I started in the business, the energy industry was approximately 100 years old, so we had to kind of celebrate it. So we put ourselves in costumes from when the whole industry started. But I can also say as a fact that basically what has happened over the past 25 years has for sure been as big a change within the energy industry as the first 100 years were. So what I'm going to bring to you today is actually the story of all the innovations, all the things that has happened in the energy industry, and I'll hopefully also give you some insights into what can this actually maybe mean for the future, where lies the opportunities, but maybe I'll actually start here. I'll have to put it a little bit as a comedy. The thing is that those 25 years from when I started in the energy industry has been a lot of mishaps. It's been a lot of experiments. It's been a lot of things that were invented, went wrong, went into a maybe not as it was thought to be. The first thing when I was actually hired was the fact that the energy industry had worked perfectly well for 100 years, and all of a sudden the fact from the whole European center was that now the energy industry needs to be liberalized. We need to go into competition. We need to compete with each other because the whole idea was the fact that when competing, you would also ensure that there would be much cheaper electricity. Europe would be a much more competitive place, and the customers would be happier because the innovation would kind of develop itself within an industry that was seen at that point in time as an industry that had basically just done the same thing over and over again for approximately 100 years. So the promise was cheap electricity, good competition, but the fact was that no, the only winners were the marketing agencies making tons of money from an industry trying to prove themselves, differentiating from each other, but still actually just selling the same product. So what happened then was basically that the whole industry went into a discussion, an opportunity of investing in a lot of different means to differentiate, to be part of a game, to innovate in many different areas. Smart meters, smart grids, renewables. But what was really happening was that we had on one side this fact that the energy industry was going into a competition mode. It was separated from a grid company to a retail company to a company taking care of sending the bills, etc., etc. Even companies separated out to set up meters. So it meant that the idea that for the end customer, this should be easier, more competitive, actually ended up being much more complex. You had to all of a sudden beware of all these different companies. What are the different roles in relation to each other? And the fact was that it also did not give a lot of incentive for the energy industry in itself to actually optimize the whole value stream, the whole value chain from the production of electricity or energy to making it go and distribute it to the end customer, to the actual use of it, because the separation of the industry, which of course in some terms were very good, it was clear that you cannot have a monopoly that is in competition. It turned out that it actually played on different things, and the fact was that nobody could really see what was it that this industry was actually going to deliver in the end. There were so many political ambitions, there were so many different things that the industry was supposed to do that in the end it was very hard to see. One thing, however, that was very clear was that it needed to be smart. Everything should be smart. We had a smart grid, a smart home, a smart meter, a smart everything. Even our company name, I'd say, Smart Innovation Norway, comes from this time where basically, as long as you're smart, you're basically just on top of things. And there are still, as we can definitely see, reminiscences from that time. And the picture here of myself is actually from 2009. It was when COP15 was taking place in Copenhagen. We were there again to show that the energy industry here is actually the ones that will deliver the results of reducing CO2 emissions. The political ambition was that the energy industry had to be a key player in securing that we were actually able to deliver on all the promises. Unfortunately, as you probably are well aware, the COP15 did not end very well. And the ambitions for the energy industry also turned out to be a little vague. Is it really so that you can say to an industry that you need to deliver very cheap, and on the other hand, you should also reduce basically the thing that you're delivering to the end customer, and you should do it in a way so you're still profitable, and you should deliver a better product, and you should be in competition. There are so many different aspects of this that basically, in the end, turned out to be too many promises that could not really be fulfilled in the other way. And also, many of these promises, as I'm also putting here in the question, is that if everything is so smart, is it really smart that you have to find your phone and figure out where is this light switch instead of just actually turning the light on and off on the wall? So there were many things that went into the energy industry that was not really thought through. Some of the things we have also seen earlier in the presentations today. You need basically to understand what is it that the customers need in order to deliver solutions that are actually also sought for and that can be of value to end customers. But one thing that might be worth anyways considering is the fact that in 25 years from when I started, energy uses were seen as imbalances in the grid. They were not even seen as people. They were seen as someone that actually created disturbances in the grid, quite an annoying element. It turned out that starting to set up meters, customers turns into becoming metering points. So, okay, at least they are something. Eventually, with the marketing agencies coming aboard, it was clear that okay, we're actually also people. There might be some values, some things that would be worth taking into consideration when considering what should the energy industry actually deliver? What kind of innovation is needed from the energy industry actually to make the customer happy? So it turns in that the customers are actually real people, not just objects, but real subjects. And in the end, actually becoming part, maybe not as a problem, as an imbalance in the grid, but as part of the solution, becoming part of the grid, becoming part of the whole energy value chain. So that was a real game changer, I think, with the perception, basically, of the whole industry and this journey that happened over the course of these 25 years. And then in 22, obviously something very different happened. You can see that basically the transition in the energy industry, as I've just been portraying over these 25 years, has been part of a political pressure together with the innovations that has happened in the industry and a slow development of the perception within the energy industry in itself. And then in 2022, with the invasion of Ukraine, it was clear that, again, the political focus on the energy industry changed quite a lot. It was no longer only about delivering cheap and renewable energy. Now it was much more about securing supply. So could we even be sure that tomorrow we will be able to get electricity to customers in the end? So this was a very big question. Security of supply became the number one kind of focus, and it was more than just a price game. So one thing we actually did at Smart Innovation Norway was that we sat down and we used AI to trawl through the internet for 24 hours in relation to a small municipality where our headquarters are. In 24 hours, this AI web crawler was able, just from publicly available data, to figure out where are the most vulnerable places in our energy infrastructure. So imagine this. It does not take more than 24 hours to actually deliver something that can point to the most vulnerable places in the whole energy infrastructure. It means that the current setup of our whole infrastructure is actually probably much more vulnerable than we would believe it to be. We are suddenly realizing that there are many attacks opportunities out there, cyber attacks, but also extreme weather conditions, maybe even geopolitically tension that could turn into violence and sabotage of the energy infrastructure. And we need to be very much aware of that. It means that the way that we've been thinking about electricity in the past 100 years, and also especially in the 25 years that I've just been portraying, maybe actually turns out to be part of the problem. But before I go into the solution, I'd like to just summarize a little bit of what I have been saying. So the uncomfortable truth in relation to all the innovations, and I have to admit there's really been a lot of innovations in the industry, is that they have not really come together into a solid solution for the future. The competition that we have been installing 25 years ago has not really been delivering to the extent that we wanted. We've seen the development of a ton of individual solutions, protected a little bit, of course, by the fact that an industry with this power is actually also being protected, which means that competition has not really been allowed to unfold, and for good reasons. We have a lot of very advanced technology that has been developed, but the integration and the opportunities that actually lies within those technologies has not really been taken advantage of. As I also mentioned, the crisis that has basically instigated all these new innovations, if it was the environmental crisis that installed the fact that the energy industry should be delivering on CO2 reductions, or if it was the economical crisis that basically made it so that the energy industry should deliver cheap electricity for Europe to become more competitive, all these things has not really delivered in the end. So the fact is that we might have been asking the wrong questions. And what I come with here today is actually an observation that I've made recently. And it's very interesting. I know here in Slovakia, there's been a lot of discussions about energy communities. What should the role of energy communities be? How could they maybe work? I know there's a new legislation coming, and there's a lot of discussion going on. The thing with energy communities is quite interesting because all the flaws that we've seen when we've tried to install these new technical solutions into a very big centralized infrastructure can work much better and be piloted much better within a smaller area, within energy community. So it's interesting to maybe see energy communities not only as separate entities within the big system, but also as sandboxes, as opportunities to trial all these new innovations, the innovations that we have already been delivering and developing in the industry, but have not necessarily been able to deploy, because deploying, for example, a new infrastructure in the energy industry in millions of homes across Slovakia or other European countries takes enormous effort, takes enormous amount of money, and it's not something that you can just deliver overnight. And the fact also is that when deploying something like that, you are in risk of deploying the wrong element that will be already outdated the next day. So taking the opportunity, instead of installing and trialing out these technologies within a setting of energy communities, for me could really be part of a solution to something that can really deliver on the promises that we have been delivering so far. Another thing which is very interesting is that we're also aware that, all countries are not necessarily the same, and also not even all parts of a country are the same. It means that with this solution, we're able to deploy different technical solutions that better fits the local areas, and then we can make them work together instead of having to deploy one size fits all. Another very interesting thing that then came from what I just said before is that, so yes, we tried to develop this test of finding the infrastructural pain points within the energy infrastructure system. And we developed a game called the Resilience game. You can basically play it together. You'll have to decide with your energy infrastructure, what are the most critical points? Which one would you, in terms of, for example, a cyber attack, would you prioritize that could maybe not necessarily be fitted with power for the next 5 hours, 10 hours, 24 hours, depending on the severity. So it's a real-time game where you're basically playing around with your assets. It could be here in Košiciach, where we could basically figure out what does the infrastructure look like, and then we could install different scenarios to figure out, so if this and that happened, what would then eventually happen in the end? And if you apply energy communities to this, the resilience is so much stronger, because all the different energy communities are actually already, per design, able to somehow support the energy industry infrastructure within a small area. So it means that if you're building your energy infrastructure in a way where you're supporting smaller kind of islands and make them in a normal situation work together, deliver electricity or energy to each other, but enabling them to work separately in terms of crisis, you have a much, much more resilient system. So there are really interesting things here that could be and should be, in my opinion, really taking into the minds of the decision makers. The thing here is that not only does it work more resilient, it is also an opportunity to have much more sustainability, much more renewables being taken up, because you can optimize the electricity consumption in a small area, whereas it is very hard to optimize for a huge system. You can optimize it much better. And the new generation of smart meters that have been equipped with actual AI intelligence is now actually able to optimize for smaller cities and small rural areas to take care of these areas, to work maybe as almost self-independent energy islands. So this is very interesting. So again, my case here is that with the energy communities, we are securing local renewables optimization. We are able to use all the smart technology that has been developed over the course of these 25 years that I was just describing before and make it into use in smaller settings, also meaning that the investment that it would take would not necessarily mean that we'd need to equip the whole country in just a few years. We could do it step by step. We could ensure that the right areas are actually selected first to deliver this, and it could take the course of longer time. We could install renewables at the same time to also optimize the utilization of renewable electricity in a much better way. The economics are very different because you have much more opportunity for shared benefits and the investment coming from local people that actually want to get both the independence but also more renewable energy could be much more easily seen, and it's easier to get investments on a local level within this. So it also means that one way or another, we are actually, with energy communities, we're democratizing the whole energy sector in a different way, meaning that the huge investments would be, of course, still be needed, but they would probably be more needed for the industry, whereas the cities, the people, us using electricity on a daily basis, would be able to get into maybe a common sharing and utilization and investment in energy communities. So the collaboration have probably been winning here over the competition, which I find also quite interesting. So my final take here, we should support the new energy communities legislation. The opportunities now to start focusing on delivering all these communities in the pilot projects that will come. Here in Slovakia, there's a huge nuclear baseload. It can work very well, depending on the political discussions about the utilization of that, with actually taking up more and more renewables. We can learn from these 25 years of mistakes, and we can also use something like the resilience game to learn about where are all the difficulties and how should we optimize it for the opportunities of all the innovations that we've been doing in this industry for the past 25 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That was Mr. Thomas Mikkelsen. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.